Right, but if the U.S. does more aggressively support the Philippines, won't that anger China? What do you think about that argument?
Yeah, that's the whole argument. That's what they say. Do not provoke China. So China's figured that out, that if we do anything down there, you use the term aggressive. If we more aggressively assert the Philippines, why is it aggressive to bring food and water to sailors on a ship?
To our allies.
Because it angers China, Jim.
Right. I don't particularly care. Anything angers them, right? Anything that we say or do that isn't in accordance with their dictates and their worldview, they say angers them.
I guess even talking about Winnie the Pooh angers them.
Yeah, this is angering them, I'm sure. Just talking about it angers.
So do you think that if the U.S. were to help resupply the boat in the second Thomas Shoal or have more ships there, do you think that actually would increase the chances of the PLA launching a war? Or is the PLA going to do that anyway, and the U.S. should just do what it's going to do?
Or another option, that the U.S. showing that it's going to actually do something would prevent war.
I think that's what Chris said is, that was the logic that we used in the Cold War, right? We did things that showed that our determination around the world against the Soviets. We're in a Cold War with the PRC today. There's no question about it. And so we need to learn and remember the lessons from those older guys, even older than the boomers, that worked against the Soviets. I would also say that, from a tactical perspective, we should talk about, let's go down and do this, and then let's go to intel school on how the PLA responds. I want to know how they fly. How fast did they launch out of one of those 3 air bases? What did they do? Where did they fly? What did their communication signals? What did they say to each other?
Everything they're doing with Taiwan.
Yes. Do it in reverse. Put them on the back foot and say, oh, okay, we're going to go to school and see how you fight down here. And then we're going to go in and figure out how to find the seams and the vulnerabilities in the way you're going to fight. Now, they don't have quite a lot down there, given they have these 3 major air bases and 4 other military installations that have been militarized. But that doesn't mean they're invincible by a long stretch.
Thank you very much for joining us, Jim. This was a very interesting interview.
Well, it's my pleasure. Great to talk to you all. You all do great work, and keep it up.
Thanks, Jim.
Aloha.
It's always good to have Jim on.
You know what angers China? Talking about the Cold War with China.
Yeah, we have such a Cold War mentality.
Yes.
Yeah, they really hate that talk.
But what's wrong with a Cold War mentality? If that's what's happening, shouldn't that be praise? If they're putting us in a Cold War and we recognize that, then that's actually a good thing.
I think it's actually that there is no Cold War, Matt. The Cold War is in America's head.
There is no
with
war
our Cold War mentality. There is no Cold War in Boston.
There is no Cold War. Fire Nation, what? You've been asleep. Wake up. It's time to play video games or something.
Okay, you were going strong until that last
part. You had the whole
know.
Last Airbender thing really strong, and then
then I tried to do another type of meme. It didn't work. I need more coffee. Hey, let's start a coffee brand called Cold War Mentality.
Cold brew mentality.
No, that's it's good, but nobody will know what that comes from.
Yeah, Cold War Mentality coffee.
Yeah,
something.
Cold War Mentality coffee. You should buy it.
Hey,
because it angers China.
Yeah, let's get into the coffee business. That'll be.
That's a great way to support the show. I think.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a lot of people in the coffee business.
I'm so
right?
tired.
You just want wholesale beans. I feel like that's what.
That's probably a big part of it. But yeah, I think it is important, the idea that if the U.S. actually exerts its strength, it can do good in the world.
I think that is almost antithetical to everything that anyone has ever learned about international relations and diplomacy over the last
that's the
30
problem.
years.
It's like the U.S. is always the bad guy. It's better if the U.S. backs off and does nothing. But the problem is that allows actual authoritarians like Russia or China to sweep into the power vacuum.
You don't understand, Chris. I mean, life is much better in China than in the U.S. I'm just thinking now of the guy that Matt met on May Day in at
Oh, it
this
was talking of North Korea.
was talking
Yeah.
about how North Korea has like so much of a better quality of life than America.
Yeah, well, that was just like his opinion, man.
Yeah. I mean, it is a failing of the education system of the U.S. that people have this that they have been ideologically twisted to think this way about the United States, and it's having real world negative impacts in the world.
Yeah, I don't think it's just that, because of course we can criticize the U.S. for its actual failings. I don't think the problem is that people speak negatively of the U.S. I think there's also the part of it where, the part where the U.S. is like the worst boogeyman in the world, that is exactly like Chinese propaganda. So that's not realistic. But there's also part of it that goes back to like after the Cold War ended with the Soviet Union, then there was this idea that like there are no more bad guys. We can all, get along because we can make money together, right? Like this kind of like, as long as we can trade with other countries, then everything will be great and peaceful. And that is not the case when there are many authoritarian countries who want to take over the world.
The whole idea that we've never gone to war with a country with a McDonald's.
It was two countries with McDonald's have never gone to war together, although that's currently not true because of Russia and Ukraine.
True.
Although maybe from Russia's perspective, Ukraine has always been part of Russia.
No, it still holds because aren't there no more McDonald's in Russia?
Oh, right, because they pulled out.
And then Russia nationalized McDonald's.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, so maybe that holds. And I think that...
Well, no, it doesn't, because World War I, World War II, all the countries were economically tied together and we still went to war.
But there were
no McDonald's.
Yeah.
Very, very specifically, that is true.
But I think maybe we should let billionaire and corporate interests control our U.S. foreign policy. I mean, really, everything's turned out well when we do that.
Over the last 30 years?
100 years.
Oh, 100 years?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's also this this idea that's become fairly common over not just recently, but the last several decades, that strength and power are somehow inherently bad or evil. And you can see when strength and power do become, bad and evil or destructive, right? But there's also a good side to those things. And if they're used with wisdom and with compassion and with a mentality of protecting, then strength and power can be very positive forces. And while the U.S. has had numerous failings, including numerous overseas failings, like on balance, would a country like the Philippines want to have protection from the U.S. or protection from China? I mean, like, China's never going to protect the Philippines because China's trying to take over Philippine territory, right? So you have to consider that, like, there can be a very positive element potentially to U.S. strength in the region if that's what the U.S. chooses to do.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, America has a role as the global superpower to, stand by its values of freedom and democracy. And if it doesn't, the world will actually be a worse place.
Yeah. And when the U.S. exerts its power but fails to uphold freedom and democracy, then in those cases which have happened over the last, several decades, then that actually hurts our ability to do the right thing when we need to do that. For example, defending Taiwan, defending the Philippines. So this is where, I think the U.S. government and State Department and military need to really step up the game.
Well, I know what you're getting at, things like, war in Afghanistan and Iraq. But I remember we were at the Oslo Freedom Forum, a human rights conference, and there was that girl from Afghanistan, young girl who was like part of the first female robotics team in Afghanistan. And I don't know where she is now. I hope not in Afghanistan, but was her life better or worse under the U.S. versus the Taliban? So, yeah, there's a lot of uncontextualized anger at the United States, which I don't think holds up upon closer inspection. And it's to the advantage of the Chinese Communist Party.
I mean, I think they're actually responsible for a lot of that messaging.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one helpful paradigm through which to look at any issue is how would Chinese propaganda view this issue? And if Chinese propaganda views it as positive, then it's probably negative. And if they view it as negative, it's probably positive. Like, I would say on balance, that's generally like a pretty helpful way to look at it.
So when the CCP says that NATO is basically Voldemort, what you're saying is people should not like the Harry Potter series because
No, what I'm saying is that if the CCP says NATO is Voldemort, then actually NATO is Harry Potter.
Why not Ron or Ginny?
That's a good point, Chris.